Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass Podcast. This for UFC Vegas 53. Paul Shaughnessy, joined on the line, as always, by Cody Saftic. We've got a card this week, Cody. It's not a particularly good one. It's been a little bit of a rough stretch since UFC 273. I believe that was 273. These fight night cards have been dicey to say the least. But I'm happy to have fights every single week. Happy even if there's not even great opportunities for betting, if there's not spots that I absolutely love. I am still thankful that there's fights for me to degen into every single week. So we've got 12 of them to degen into this week. Any first thoughts before we get into the action there, Code?
Oh, man, like you said, it hasn't been the greatest stretch. I mean, even when we do have okay weeks, we're scraping by with maybe a top ticket at best, and there's been weird cancellations. And last week, I not only got beat up on the UFC, but I got beat up way worse on the Bellator side of things. Like, yeah, I don't know. It just hasn't been the greatest in that regard. And then even when you look at the UFC, like you got a minus 1,800, gets himself disqualified against Mike Jackson in the first round. I decide to fade both Canadians, and both of them pick up fairly easy first-round submissions. Like any dog I thought had a chance just didn't come through. It was a bad card all around, but it's been an accumulation that hasn't been the greatest stretch. So normally, Mr. Optimistic, I'd say let's just get it back this week. You know, that's the glory of MMA betting. You're always into another one, but this is a dicey proposition of a card for sure. I think it's going to be Dog City. I can already smell it. I can hear the dogs are barking. And so let's try to stay on the positive side of things. And if it was one of these greasy cards that we got the bounces to go our way, tons of value. But we're going to need some bounces.
I got bailed out Bellator live on both nights. I ended up taking, in hindsight, it was actually a bad bet because she basically she was not going to win a decision, but I took Liz Carmouche at like plus 700 live. And I had better, I'd actually like plus 175, plus 200, and then plus 175. And honestly, like a minute later, she gets into mount, she gets the crucifix. I mean, the stoppage was like, thank you, Mike Beltran, for filling my pockets, but made a whole bunch of money on that. And and the other one was... Why is memory? Absolutely. Oh, Yancy Medeiros, like in round 3, was like plus 700 live. And I was watching that fight. I'm like, we're in Hawaii. These rounds seem a lot closer than that. So I ended up cashing big on those. So that kind of saved my week. My bets were pretty 50-50. Still have some carryover from Romanov versus Sherman. Romanov inside the distance was in there, so I still have some carryover from that. I mean, the UFC was pretty mediocre, but Bellator Live saved my biscuits. Anyway, we got Rob Font taking on Marlon Chito Vera in the main event of UFC Vegas 53. Rob Font a minus 130 favorite. Chito Vera could be had for plus 110. I mean, watching tape on this and thinking about this fight and looking at the numbers and everything like that, Rob Font, his volume is huge, power not so much. I tend to think he probably wins a matchup here in terms of over the course of 5 rounds. He just lands more significant strikes, but he could have said the exact same thing when he took on Jose Aldo. He outclipped him like almost 1.5 to 1 on significant strikes. Those knockdowns by Jose Aldo make it really hard for him to win rounds. Like, he's well on his way to winning round 1, gets dropped at the end of round 1, loses that round. So I think about this pretty similarly. Rob Font, good boxer, should be feeding out the jab. He's got good hands. He's going to land probably more strikes than Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera's got some really nice kicks, has some power in those kicks. That's what makes it a little bit dicey, but I haven't bet it. If I was, I think I'm still going to side with the numbers. I'm going to side with who is more active and just hope that he doesn't get knocked down. Marlon Vera may have a bit of a grappling edge in this spot too, but I don't really trust his wrestling to get the fight and hold the fight in those positions. So I'm going to lean towards Font, but it's a dicey fight, and won't be shocked if it goes either way. What about you?
Yeah, pre-flop, I like Rob Font as well. I mean, I think he's a really top level talent. His problem is that he just can't quite get over the hump of like the elite. But I mean, he beats everybody in between. Very solid. Also, he's got a little bit of a streak going here, right? He only loses to Brazilian guys: Jose Aldo, Rafael Assunção, Pedro Munoz, and John Lineker. Those are his UFC losses. People will be quick to mention that he lost to Des Green on the regional way back when. But I mean, in the UFC, right? You got to be one of these tough, rugged Brazilians that can take his punch, because as you mentioned, he doesn't have a ton of stopping power, but take that volume, walk through it, and put the damaging blows on him. If you can do that, then you can have success against Rob Font. But no doubt about it, his footwork's excellent, his jab's excellent. He's, a more advanced version of like a Julio Arce, where they can just dictate a lot of the range and the action from the outside and matador their opponents. In theory, it should have worked against Jose Aldo, and he fought a near excellent game plan. It's the knockdowns, it's the big moments, it's the wow factor. And so if that's going to catch up to him, then that's the only way he loses this fight. I think he's way cleaner. He's got a speed advantage, and I think early in the first round, 2 rounds, he's going to be winning it. This is my problem, right? Who has ever watched Cheeto, who's ever cheered Cheeto on, wouldn't want to see this guy in a 5 round? Is he not built for 5 rounds, Paul? Because the guy's the world's slowest. Yeah, the guy's the world's slowest starter in the game. I mean, he's lost first rounds effectively to, oh man, the list is so long. But if you want to run through it, I'm pretty sure he lost the first round to Roman Salazar, lost the first round to Guing Yu, lost the first round to Brad Pickett, lost the first round to obviously Lineker, Wulji Burin, Guido Canetti. Andrei was competitive, but he won that one. Davey Grant in the rematch. Like, he's a very slow starter, but the guy just keeps going. He picks it up as he goes along, and I think that would be the key difference here, is that as good as Arce looked in the Cody Garbrandt fight, Garbrandt was almost knocked out in the first round, and his game plan went absolutely nowhere after that. Jose Aldo, meanwhile, I mean, he just stuck to it, waited for the big opportunities to present themselves, and was able to cash in on them. I kind of think that Marlon Vera would be able to do the same thing, maybe lose the first couple rounds, but keep coming, eventually get in his face, eventually make it a gritty fight, try to get the fight to the ground. If he does take him down, as you mentioned, perhaps a grappling advantage. Rob Font gave some sloppy takedowns up to Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt's a 125-pound fighter, so... Well, you know what I'm saying. He's a world champion at 135. Yeah,
former champion at 130 or 135.
He got lucky. He shouldn't have been a champion. But yeah, okay. He's a former champion at 35, but his frame's not all that big. And even though he comes from a wrestling base, it's nothing. Like, it's a high school wrestling base. He didn't wrestle beyond that. All I'm saying is a guy like Marlon Vera could take him down. If he does take him down, his grappling is excellent. Even if he just keeps the fight standing, he's got to get in his face. And when you watch a Frankie Edgar fight, the first round, Frankie Edgar is doing an excellent job of matadoring him. He's playing to the outside. He's moving linearly very well, stays as far away, and he's landing good counter shots. He lands the takedown. Vera can't get up. First round, Frankie Edgar. Second round, Frankie gets the takedown. All of a sudden, Vera gets back up. Why? Because, I mean, he just gets stronger the fight goes. Even a seasoned guy like Frankie Edgar has trouble holding him down. As soon as he gets back up the second time, it's all Marlon Vera in that second round. I know DC thinks maybe Frankie's up 2-0, but that's not the fact. It's 1-1 going into the third round, and Marlon Vera just chases after him and puts a beating on him. Eventually does knock him out with the front kick to the face, but that's the third round, Paul, against a guy like Frankie who's 40, but he's just going to keep developing, keep going. So you talked about how Bellator, there was some great live betting spots, and I think this is one of them. I think the move, if you want to get technical, you could bet pre-flop. You could go with Marlon Vera because he's slight plus money. But I think if you bet him after the first couple of rounds, you're going to get much better. In terms of what you would put on a parlay ticket, like, I don't know. It's the main event, so I guess you could go Font. And then I guess you could try to hedge it out after a couple of rounds if you don't feel overly comfortable with it. All I'm saying is it's going to be a much better price after the first couple. That being said, I think I'm going to lean underdog in the main event. So give me with Marlon Vera.
I'm not going to fight you all that much on that. All right, moving on down. We've got Andrei Arlovski taking on Jake Collier, in the Collier. Thinking Pat's going to France, so maybe I was trying to mix in his French accent there. Jake Collier plus 120 underdog. Andrei Arlovski can be had for minus 140. I kind of think about this one similarly to the previous fight that we just talked about. I mean, if you look at Jake Collier's record and you look at, he's taking on Aspinall, I'm going to throw that completely out the window, but Jean Vellante, 123 significant strikes. Carlos Felipe, a fight that he lost on the scorecards, but I thought pretty clear that he should have won that decision, loses by split decision, but 130 significant strikes. If he is able to throw over 100 significant strikes, I don't know if the modern version of Andrei Arlovski can keep at that pace. Like, he can get close to 100, but if it's like 130 to 88, Jake Collier is going to win based on just volume, sheer volume. I do see this fight. It was like minus 155 earlier in the week. People are on the over 2.5, minus 210. Now you're dealing with, Arlovski, historically a bad chin. Starts getting a little bit of like risky business trying to chase overs in that. But I think Jake Collier wins. I think Jake Collier wins by decision, just in volume. I will say, with the small caveat, that Andrei Arlovski has a way of just dragging people into his type of fight, slower paced, and just kind of controlling the range in a lot of his fights. He's on a 3-fight winning streak, obviously, against similar type of levels of competition. They both fought Felipe, Jared Vandera. I mean, that was a fight that a lot of people scored for Vandera, and he wins the split decision there. Arlovski has a way of like making these fights slow-paced, fighting at his pace of fight. But I'm going to lean towards the underdog, plus 120, Jake Collier. What about you?
Yeah, I'm feeling the same thing. It's more of a dog or pass for me, but I think Jake Collier as that plus money underdog definitely has a chance of coming through. The version of Andrei Arlovski that you're presented in the last few years is that they're likely going to go 15 minutes, and it's likely going to be a very dicey and greasy, close decision. So if you can get Andrei Arlovski at plus money or close to even money, yeah, maybe you take the flyer on him. He fights such a mid-level version of guys, right? Felipe Lins, Tanner Boser, Chase Sherman, Carlos Felipe, Jared Vandera. What do they all have in common, right? They're all like mid-level or slightly below mid-level. Those are the guys that he can slow the pace down with. Those are the guys he can outpoint. And in close fights, because Andrei Arlovski is such a badass legend of the sport, he's been fighting professionally since 1997, one of the most tenured guys in the rosters, a household name for MMA fans. You tend to just write down the 10 in his column more often than you write the 9 in these close rounds. So, again, I think it's going to be a close fight. But I think volume, just like you said, it would be the name of the game. Like that Jared Vandera fight, he didn't look good at all. Vandera backed him up the entirety of the fight and has landed, far more volume. I think it's close. I think it's competitive. I think Arlovski does what Arlovski generally does, but you could have easily scored that as a split for Vandera. The difference with Jake Collier is that I think he's just better than Jared Vandera. He keeps himself a little more tight, a little more composed. Defensively, I think he's a little bit sounder. The fight with Carlos Felipe, his cardio seems to let out in the third round, but again, it was such a high pace, and he really threw down with Carlos Felipe. So this is a guy that's not really known for his power, but I think if he goes at Arlovski and he forces a firefight, he could clip him because, of course, they are heavyweights. If he's somehow able to get the fight to the ground, oh, baby, he looked awesome. He looked awesome his last time out against Sherman as soon as the fight hit the ground, right? There are avenues for him, certainly as an underdog, and you know how it is, man. 2 middling heavyweights, dog or pass situation, name of the show, name of the game. I think that he should be able to edge out Andrei Arlovski largely based on volume, like you said, and just landing the better shot. So I'm going to go with Jake Collier as well, and that's underdog number 2. Believe me, there's a lot of them on this card. That's officially going to be dog number 2, Jake Collier.
All right, we got Andrei Fili taking on Joanderson Brito, minus 260 Fili, plus 210 Brito. Went back and watched Andrei Fili's last fight against Pineda. Obviously, it was the eye poke in round 2, but I thought that was the best we've ever seen from Andrei Fili. He was really flowing on the feet, landing very damaging strikes. Like, I thought this is the best we've ever seen from him. He obviously he didn't have to worry too much about the best path to victory is what we saw from like Bryce Mitchell. Is like if you can control this guy in the grappling range, he's a good grappler. He's not a great grappler. And Bryce put him to task in that situation. But I thought against Pineda, he was looking great. Kind of gets raw. Like Pineda wanted to continue fighting, so like no disrespect whatsoever to him. Obviously, he couldn't see out of that one eye. But yeah, I thought that was the best we ever seen from Andrei Fili. Joanderson Brito, on the other hand, he had a little bit of success taking down Bill Algeo, but who doesn't have success taking Bill Algeo down a little bit early? And then even later in the fight, he didn't. I think this stays on the feet. Fili's the much more tenured fighter. I think minus 260 is a lofty price tag, but I'm struggling to find many things that I like about the underdog here. Give me Andrei Fili. I'm interested to hear you're the parlay guy. So is Fili a guy that you're trusting this week?
Yeah, well, he's got the price tag that you got to trust him. And of course, I think we are going to play him, but I don't agree with the price tag at all. I think he wins this fight. I just don't think it's as easy as a minus 260, minus 270 tag would likely suggest it's going to be. Joanderson Brito, he's 27 years old. I think he's continually going to get better. If he fights better level of opposition, he could get better. But he's just a little too green right now for my liking. This fight takes place in a couple of years. I think he's super live because the guy is physically just an animal. Very, very strong. Very strong physically, will go in there, clinch up with you. He just throws caution to the wind standing, nothing but bombs. And you look at the fight with Bill Algeo. Actually, you got to take it back to the Diego Lopez fight on the Contender Series to get into the UFC. Starts the fight, just charges at him, takes him down, holds Lopez down. Second round, charges over at Lopez, gets him down. He's getting beat up in the striking exchanges. His style of just launching these big right hand over the top bombs is not quite coming through for him. It's slowing him down over time. And then that's when you kind of see in the third round, he looks tired and he's been warned twice for eye pokes. He gets another eye poke. They go to a judge's scorecard. Very weird situation. And he wins it. I didn't think he looked good. In the Bill Algeo fight, it's the exact same thing. He comes at Bill hard in the first round. Not only is he just taking him down, Paul, but it has to be these huge slams. Like that second takedown attempt, rewatch it, makes no sense. He picks Bill up. He runs him from Bill's side, essentially over to his corner, stops at his corner, twirls around near the center of the octagon, and then charges back to his corner and dumps him. Like, talk about wasted energy. As soon as Bill got up, one thing about Bill Algeo is he's got great pace, good cardio, right? So as soon as he got back up, he's winning the striking exchanges. He's winning the volume battle. He's eventually taking Joanderson Brito down. And when Brito was on his back, really not that much of a game as far as I was concerned. I thought Brito did a good job in the third round because it's 1-1. I thought he won the first round. I thought Bill Algeo won the second round. It all comes down to the third. Joanderson Brito hits a second win. He's coming forward. He's the aggressor. But again, when he throws punches, he just misses largely. And then with like 45 seconds left, he gets taken down by Bill Algeo, gives up his back. Bad look to end the third round. He loses it rightfully. I think Andrei Fili should be able to exploit all those same things. Like standing, Fili's got, like you said, he looked good his last time out against Daniel Pineda. But he's better at just, I find, like dictating the range. Like he's going to fight longer. He's going to have a slight reach advantage, I believe. And I think if he stays to the outside, then he should be able to just intercept him before he comes in, see those big blows coming and move out of the way. Like Pineda's a pressure fighter. He's a one-round guy, but he's very strong in the first round. Fili did an excellent job of just basically neutralizing him. But the key, I think, would be to sprinkle in the takedowns. Like, again, Andrei Fili is a good wrestler. It's just when you see him against a guy like Bryce Mitchell, who's way too physically strong, he's going to give up 7 takedowns. He fought valiantly. He's just out-muscled. In this fight against Brito, I think it'll be another one of these Fili fights where he's got the wrestling advantage and is just going to mix that in to A, look good for the judges, 2, slow this guy down, and 3, wrestling's exhausting. So if you're worried that Joanderson Brito has a cardio issue, now's the time to put the pace on him. So I've got Fili as well. I don't love the price tag. I think this is probably going to be a greasy banger that could come down to the third round and we need the third round. But Fili's got the tenure. He's got the experience. He's been in those deep waters. And again, with Brito, there are some things I like, but he's way too green. He hasn't put it all together yet. And this is one hell of a tough fight for you. It's your second fight in the UFC. You lost the first one against Bill Algeo. And now you're going to fight Andrei Fili? Like, goddamn. Maybe the price tag is warranted. The pick will be Fili, but I don't know if I put it on the top ticket quite yet.
That's fair enough. All right, we got Grant Dawson taking on Jared Gordon, minus 190. Grant Dawson, plus 160. Jared Gordon. What's your take here, buddy?
I'm flip-flopping back and forth between this one as well. I think that the live underdog here, definitely Jared Gordon, in that Grant Dawson's last fight was basically a blueprint on how to beat the guy, and Jared Gordon, pretty much all of his fights are that exact same blueprint. He grinds on guys. He's a BJJ black belt, so even if you take him down, you're going to have to muscle him to the ground. He's going to be fighting you the entire way. He's going to work his way back up, and then if you fail to take him down, it's going to be a problem. Grant Dawson, like looking back at his run so far, so the Adrian Diaz fight, I mean, he's not a grappler, so he beats him. Julian Erosa, not known for his grappling. Mike Trizano, definitely not a grappler. Derek Minner, grappler, but one-round guy. So when he took him into the second round, by the way, he was in some really bad spots in the first, but once he tires out the one-round guy, he defeats Derek Minner. Now, Narimani, same thing. It's the last 2 fights in particular. The Leo Santos fight, he didn't look good. Now, I'm a Grant Dawson guy through and through. I bet him through and through. I'm worried in this Leo Santos fight because he can't do anything to him on the ground, and his striking don't really look all that good. His stand-up, where I'm hoping he's just going to tire Leo Santos out, doesn't quite happen as easy as you'd think. Going into the third round, like I think it's 1-1. Well, it's a dicey proposition, and he's a big enough favorite here that he should go out and do something. Of course, he does knock him out with a buzzer beater, 1 second left on the clock, right? So he seals the deal. But that was the first spot where it was like, maybe he's not as great as I thought he was. Like, he was 40-8 his senior year in high school as a wrestler, was a good enough high school wrestler, never wrestled in college to my knowledge. He's 28 now. Like, at what point do you turn the corner? He hasn't quite done it for me. And then the Rick Glenn fight, I got burned bad on this one because, of course, he's a minus 525 favorite over Rick Glenn. First round, he spear tackles Rick Glenn to the ground and spends the first round on top. Second round, not so easy. He's tired. He tired after 1 round. I never seen it before. Normally, the guy can train to wrestle a little bit, push a pace, but he's gassed after 1 round against Rick Glenn. Second round, he's getting beat up standing, so he takes him down. But, I mean, he's got no ground and pound. He's got no submission attempts. It doesn't necessarily look good to a judge. Things probably 1-1 going. No, I got it 2-0, but Dawson's running on fumes. He's not finding a very good game plan. And then the third, he shoots a sloppy takedown, and Rick Glenn just ends up on top and puts an absolute thrashing on him, right? Gets a 10-8 round. That's what forces the draw. Rick Glenn is then pretty open about how I think I won that fight. And this kid sitting here, Grant Dawson, doesn't really got anything to say to it. To me, that showed his limitations. And with Jared Gordon, again, this is what he does. If you want to beat him, you'd better knock him out. That's how he loses. Diego Ferreira knocks him out. Joaquim Silva knocks him out. Charles Oliveira was able to catch him. Guys that don't just quickly knock him out in the first round, they've got to endure the pain that this guy brings to you, which is a prolonged beating. And so when you look at Grant Dawson, how does he match up with Joe Selecki? Pretty similar, right? They're both grapplers. They both want to get the early takedown. And, of course, Joe Selecki does get the early takedown against Jared Gordon. But he makes him work the whole time. The longer you work now, it's harder to get them in the second. It's harder to get them in the third. I thought Jared Gordon did an excellent way of working his way back into it. A couple of years ago, I thought this guy was borderline done. Moved over to Sanford MMA. I don't know what he's doing for strength and conditioning, but he seems way more explosive, way more mobile. The striking, of course, is going to be a slight advantage over Grant Dawson. Pace should be there. It's going to be dicey. It's going to be dicey. And so I think officially I'm going to go with underdog number 3 on the card with Jared Gordon at plus 160.
Yeah. Tough scene for the favored or pass people in the comment section. Lots of dogs. We're liking lots of dogs this week. I completely agree with you. I think it's a dog or pass situation, 100%. Gordon late. Just don't die early. And yeah, Grant Dawson hasn't really showed me very much on the feet to really scare me all that much off of it. If this is a grinding affair, hopefully he slows down. I know Jared's got 3-round cardio in the bank. All right, we got Darren, the damage Elkins, taking on your boy Tristan Connelly, minus 165, Darren the damage, plus 145, Tristan Connelly. My biggest concern here, you know me, I love Darren Elkins, but now we're talking about a situation where he's minus 165 favorite. I'm starting to think, he's taken all this damage over the years. Cub Swanson goes in there, absolutely clowns on him. It was like 20-1 in significant strikes and puts him away. I'm thinking the damage may be damaged goods at this point. Tristan Connelly doesn't exactly have the stand-up or power that usually would concern me, but I'm not getting in line to squander a whole bunch of money on Darren Elkins as a favorite in this spot. Connelly, when he took on Pereira at 170 pounds, I mean, he fought a very, very smart game plan. He fought a very, very smart fight. He's got, obviously, good jiu-jitsu. I think this is another live dog that we're looking at. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually agree with you 100%. Maybe it's my bias because I got 0-2 for Canadians last week, but I think Tristan Connelly is another one of these guys that I consider a live underdog. Of course, Darren Elkins at his absolute best, the takedowns and the pace, and maybe that would all be too much for Tristan Connelly to overcome. He's just not at his best anymore. Of course, he's only 1 year older than Tristan Connelly, which seems shocking because
in fight years, Darren Elkins is like 90, though. Like this
but
guy.
There's the key problem right there. Is in fight years, the guy is 175 years old. He's an old wizard at this point. And where it's fun to watch him fight, he's got to be matched up with the appropriate level of competition. Now, on the outside looking in, it seems like Connelly's that guy. I mean, he's 1-1 in the UFC. He's 36 years old. He just really hasn't made a whole lot of a big splash for himself. His regional show victories all by good, and I think all of them inside the distance. Not really against the biggest name and quality guys out there. So there's a lot that you could perhaps not like about him. But again, with Elkins, his losses are legitimate guys. You look at the wins, though, Edward Grigori, right? He can take him down 7 times. He can grind on him. This guy's got absolutely zero takedown defense, no grappling. That's not the case with Tristan Connelly. His takedown defense could use some work, but he's a BJJ black belt. And he knows how to keep himself out of bad positions. Derek Minner actually put Elkins through hell in the first round. Problem is, Minner's a one-round guy. All you got to do is last the first round. So he lost the first round and, of course, scores his first TKO in a very long time because it's not his style. He's got to grind on guys. I don't think that's going to be the easiest path to victory here against Tristan Connelly, who's got endless cardio. He's got really good deep gas tank. Of course, that BJJ black belt should allow him to keep himself safe as far as being on the ground, explode, get your way back up. And then it's not that he's that much better of a striker than Elkins, is that forward pressure and just be faster. And that's what he's able to do. Of course, we cashed a huge ticket on him when he fought Michel Pereira, and the fight's at 170 pounds, by the way, right? So now he's down at 145. The fight with Pat Sabatini, interesting, because in the first round he gets dropped. It's like a short little right hand. It kind of folds him over. Pat Sabatini gets on top, and Sabatini's all over him. Takes it back, looks for a rear naked choke. But, I mean, Connelly defends everything, has his wits about him, defends everything. Second round, much of the same. Pat Sabatini shoots the takedown, gets it easily, dominates for the most part on the ground, but Tristan Connelly sticks with it. The third round is all Connelly, dude. He's moving forward. He's outstriking him. He's backing him up. He's winning the exchanges. He scores his own takedown on Pat Sabatini at the end of the third and does a little bit of good work. Like, his issue is that when he fought Pereira, he had fought, this is in 2019, okay? 2019, he fought in March. He fights 2 months later. He fights 2 months later against Pereira, and then he takes like a 2-year-long layoff, had like a neck fusion surgery, hadn't been able to train all that hard, hadn't had no ring time, and had a major surgery. Fought valiantly against Pat Sabatini, but you could see early ring rust. He needed to shake it off. The later the fight went, he kind of got his wits about him. I think in this spot, go out there against Elkins and just maybe get taken down early, but cause him to overexpend some energy, cause him to work, get back up, and then stick in his face, use your speed advantage, pressure him, and I think he could have a lot of success. Elkins hasn't been submitted since Charles Oliveira like 10 years ago, but I think if you could cause him to shoot a bad takedown and snatch a hold of the neck, Connelly's got an excellent guillotine choke, and then beyond that, just pressure, volume, better striking, make him work. I think he could edge it out. So again, I'm going to back another underdog here.
All right, let's see if we keep the underdog train rolling. We got Krzysztof Jotko taking on Gerald Meerschaert, minus 165 Jotko, plus 145 for GM3. Meerschaert's always a tricky guy. He's obviously super dangerous. He has the most submission wins, I believe, in like UFC history. The guy fights very, very often. It's like it doesn't even seem that long ago he got knocked out in the first round by Khamzat Chimaev, and then now he's rattled off 3 straight wins. Originally kind of looking at this matchup, I'm like, well, Jotko lighter on the feet, not much of a power puncher whatsoever, but he should be able to mind his P's and Q's. Just don't engage in the grappling whatsoever, and you should be able to win. But I'm struggling to get to him at minus 165 just because the volume just is never great enough that it makes things very, very interesting. He fights a style that leads to very, very close, dicey decisions, and I don't like getting involved in close, dicey decisions when I'm paying chalk prices. I do think that Jotko minds his P's and Q's, stays out of all grappling exchanges, points away Gerald Meerschaert and gets the W here, but I don't think I'm going to get there with my money. What about you?
I think I am going to get there with my money, Paul, but you got me all bugged out now. Yeah. Like, I know the risks of betting against Gerald Meerschaert because he always seems to pull one out, but stylistically, this is not a matchup that favors him. I wouldn't think. Meerschaert does his best work when his opponent just completely gasses out. That's where he's at his best, because he's that perennial underdog that's going to fight through to the end. And if he finds himself on your back, you've got a world of problems. But again, look at his wins, right? Trevin Giles, which he lost the first 2 rounds, but caught him in the third. Good times, good times. Beat Darren Wynn, who completely gassed out after 2 rounds, and he caught him in the third. Okay, so there's your trend. Of course, Bartosz Fabinski just shot himself face first into a guillotine choke, as he tends to do. Makhmed Muradov, this one's interesting. It almost gets stopped on multiple occasions.
Muradov is a similar fight. It's a similar fight to what we're dealing with in Jotko here.
It is and it isn't. So Muradov's probably got way more natural power than Jotko. Like, Jotko's not one to go out there and knock a guy out, but Muradov doesn't really have cardio, I don't think. Like, his grappling's not there and his cardio's not there. So what happens is he goes out against Meerschaert and he drops him early. Meerschaert's in trouble. You got the referee. Worst referee in the game. Don't want to even mention his name. Goddamn Mark Smith. I just got to always bring it up because I don't like the guy. I just don't like the guy. The whole time he's warning him, just like, you got to fight back, Gerald. You got to fight back. You got to fight back. Like, he's getting folded over. Nothing's going well for him. And then at like the 4-minute mark, I don't know what happens to Muradov, but he slows right down. And Meerschaert, as he always does, fights back valiantly, lands a beautiful left hook, lands a partial head kick, wobbles him a little bit, forces the action, breaks him, and then in the second round goes out there and finishes the job. But this is another guy that just wasn't able to fight for a sustained period of time. Then you get the Dustin Stolfus fight, right? So I've never been the biggest Gerald Meerschaert guy. Striking is just not good. Big-time defensive liability. Chin's always way up in the air. His cardio, even though he's using it to win fights, seems suspect. Like, he's always tired out there, seemingly. But I back him big against Dustin Stolfus, because how the hell is he going to lose to Dustin Stolfus, right? I think he's one of the bigger favorites on the card, and he's effectively a minus 250 favorite against Dustin. The first round, he scores a takedown. He's looking good on top. He has one bad scramble, ends up on his back. Nothing. Stolfus just holds him down. Easy money. Stolfus may have won the first round. Crazy. Second round, same shit. He's tired, Meerschaert is. He can't get the takedown because his wrestling's really not all that good. Stolfus ends up on top and then clearly dominates him in the grappling exchanges in the second round. Stolfus might be up 2 rounds. Now it's the third round. My ticket's pretty much burnt up here. I'm feeling really shitty about myself. Third round, Dustin Stolfus scores an easy money takedown on Meerschaert. And then Meerschaert gets back up, finally works to get back up. His heart is his best characteristic. And once he gets back up, he starts to put a little bit of pain on him, forces another bad shot, takes the back, grabs the rear naked choke, submits him from the jaws of defeat. He did not look good. No. So now when I think about the Jotko fight, Jotko's got really good takedown defense. Of course, on paper, he got taken down 5 times against Meerschaert, but Misha's very strong and physical, has better wrestling than Meerschaert, and is a BJJ black belt as well. So I'm not going to give him too much of a hard time there. And as soon as he gets taken down, he gets back up. But traditionally, the takedown defense has been solid for him. Of course, he does move well. His striking's at a slight advantage, whereas his volume is very low. You're absolutely right. What volume does Meerschaert have? He landed 11 strikes against Dustin Stolfus, and it went 13 minutes. 11 strikes he landed. Against Muradov, he landed 32. I know a lot of these are finishes, but you get what I'm saying. The Darren Wynn fight was his career best, and Darren Wynn is huffing and puffing and curled over. Jotko's not going to do that. Jotko's going to be there. Jotko's physical in the clinch. And Jotko likes to shoot takedowns, but his wrestling's really not all that good. I think he could take Meerschaert down. I know what you're saying. Don't grapple with Meerschaert. Don't grapple with Meerschaert off your back. Grapple with Meerschaert. You could take him down. His takedown defense is not that good, and you could set up shop and guard. And I have a feeling Jotko's going to try to do that. Listen, he went the distance with Talis Latis, went the distance with David Branch. He's been in bad spots. The dude hasn't been submitted in 8 years since the Magnus
Seidenblad, yep.
Yeah, 8 years ago. He knows how to grapple. He trains out of American Top Team with some of the best guys in the game. He's hot off a fight with Meerschaert, who, again, is also an excellent grappler, despite just getting armbarred from guard. We saw that coming, right? I think Jotko. I think Jotko's just got the style to stifle everything that Meerschaert brings to the table. And, of course, he's got excellent cardio, good enough to not gas out and give Meerschaert that glimpse. So I'm going to go with Jotko, the minus 165 here.
Sounds like he's going to be pretty high up the tickets as well.
He's going to have to be because we got so many underdogs on this ticket. Like, which favorites do you actually trust is the real question.
That is a very good question. I mean, I've already bet an underdog, and then I have listed as, like, once we're done doing this show, I'm going to bet 2 more underdogs. So that's the way this week this will be the week that the favorites sweep. Just watch.
Yeah, I know.
Just watch. All right, we got Daniel De Silva taking on Frankie Figueiredo, minus 135 to Silva, plus 115 for bad Figueiredo. Who you got here?
Okay, this one's going to sound like I'm just spamming dogs, but I'm not, right? He just happens to be a plus 115. It's closer to a 50-50 fight, and you're getting plus 115 on Francisco Figueiredo. I'm going to take a shot on it. Why? Okay, so you look with Daniel Lacerda. He's still only 25 years old, and he fights like a young 25-year-old. His striking's good. He's able to go out there and throw spinning back kicks, a lot of fancy techniques. A lot of it exerts a lot of energy. I don't know necessarily how far this guy can fight down the stretch, right? You look at all of his wins. 29-second KO, 40-second KO, 2 minutes and 45 seconds into the first round, 2:40 into the first round, 2:33 into the 2:23 into the first round. Makes his UFC debut. So he's a first-round finishing machine. We know that about him. And he's still very young, still very green. So he draws Jeff Molina. And man, first round, he lands a couple decent strikes, push Molina back, takes his back, gets way too overzealous on a rear naked choke attempt, and ends up himself getting taken down. And then Molina on top smashes away at him. He's tired after the first, I thought. Second round starts, he comes out. Molina just smacks him clean with the right hand, and he topples over. 46 seconds into the second round. Around he was tired in already. He had a good start. It looked like there's something there. But again, at 25, he's just too inexperienced, I think. He needs to fight a bunch of more guys, go through some bad spots. This is a great learning experience, but there's going to be more setbacks for him. What do you like about him? Well, his kicking game seems versatile. I think he's going to have a speed advantage over Francisco. Off his back, because by the way, I mentioned Jeff Molina ended up on top. He threw up a guillotine and 2 arm bars and has deep bites on them. But again, this is all part of his problem. He's just over grappling. He's just spamming submission attempts because that's what he does. So I think a guy like that is there to get exploited. And I think Francisco Figueiredo, for as bad of a reputation as a lot of us give him, he's not terrible. There maybe is something there. Of course, he is Davidson's brother, so that's his biggest claim to fame. But keep in mind, he's Davidson Figueiredo's younger brother, right? He's 2 years younger than Davidson. So I don't think he's a complete write-off in that this guy couldn't be serviceable, at least at some level. It's inactivity. When you look at his fights on the regional scene, he takes a gap after 2014, comes back for one fight in 2016, a couple fights in 2017, one fight in 2018, one fight in 2019, takes 2020 off, and then shows up in the UFC. So I think he doesn't got the reps as well. He's a little bit older. He's a BJJ black belt. His movement seems okay, certainly not like Davidson's. His power, definitely not like Davidson's.
No.
But it's just inactivity. Just doesn't throw enough. But the fight with Jerome Rivera, Paul, 4 takedowns, right? And he looked very physically strong in the clinch. That gives him an avenue against a guy like Daniel Silva as well, where even if the guy's just spamming these spin kicks, whatever, close up the distance, grab a hold of him, peel him to the ground. In the Malcolm Gordon fight, in the first round, he does that. He grabs a hold of Malcolm Gordon. He takes him down. He wins the first round. The second round, he's not able to get him down quite as easily, but he's beating him with the strikes. He's outstriking him, lands a beautiful knee, backs him up, nice right hand. Then Malcolm Gordon gets the takedown, wins the second. And in the third, Figueiredo's gotten figured out. His takedown defense is no good, and he's starting to get tired. He's got a bad gas tank, but so does Daniel Lacerda, right? Daniel Lacerda, whatever the hell you want to call him. They both got bad gas tanks. I think my guy's a little stronger in the clinch. I think my guy's got better wrestling. I think my guy's got better grappling. If he just gets the takedown, stays up on top, probably going to be going to decision. Probably going to be close and competitive. But I think Figgy Jr., if you can believe that, pulls it out. So slight dog money at plus 115. But I think he's another one of these guys that's live. My commitment to him is not going to be that high. Again, I think this is a dog or pass type fight. But the dogs are going to be barking on the card. Even if some of the ones that I predicted to this point don't come through, these lower level greasy ones, that could go either way. You're going to want the plus money on them, I think. I mean,
Frankie Figueiredo probably – there's nothing that Daniel Lacerda can do to him that he hasn't seen in the gym against his champion brother. But you could have said the same thing about Malcolm Gordon. So – I mean, he's obviously bad Figueiredo for a reason. I'm not sure I'm going to get there from a betting perspective, but yeah, I'll side with you. Frankie Figueiredo gets back on track.
The golf season's rolling along, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting operator of the PGA Tour, has a gimme for new customers. Place any golf bet of at least $5 and get $100 in free bets, no matter what. You can bet a golfer to win, bet single round matchups, and so much more. As long as you throw down $5, you'll get $100 in free bets. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the PGA Tour action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Golf Contest. Draft your lineup of 6 golfers and compete for over $1 million in prizes each week. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DOP. Place a golf bet of at least $5 and get $100 in free bets, no matter the outcome. That's promo code DOP at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting operator of the PGA Tour. 21 plus restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Moving on down, a fight that I believe we already talked about last week. Not much money to be made unless you're thinking that this is going to be a situation kind of like a Dean Barry versus Mike Jackson, where there's MMA can be very, very cruel sometimes, and the wrong person can get a win with a disqualification or something like that. Obviously, these guys were supposed to fight last week. Alexandr Romanov, Chase Sherman, minus 2,200 for Romanov, plus 1,100 for Sherman. I mean, I used to have a rule back in the day. It's like anytime you get an underdog, a heavyweight underdog, of plus 500 or more, I would just like auto bet it. I don't even really want to auto bet Chase Sherman because he hasn't really shown too much power with his hands. He does exploit leg kicks, which seems to be one of the issues I've seen with Romanov in the past, where he doesn't really defend the leg kicks all that well. But Romanov showed up to the weigh-ins last week, and he's really put in a lot of work. He shed like 20 pounds. He's looking a lot more physically fit. I don't think that cardio, the issues that we saw with the cardio against Juan Espino, I think he's probably going to have rectified that. Maybe he loses a little bit of strength, being able to muscle guys around when you're a little bit 20 pounds less. But he's put on muscle. He's taken off fat. He can still put on more muscle. And he's not obviously a finished product yet. He's a young heavyweight, but everything, I mean, we talked about it last week. We don't have to talk about it very much here. It's just like when Jay Collier takes you down and submits you in round 1, what do you think Alexandr Romanov's about to do? I think maybe it works out this week if you're playing DraftKings. Just load up on Romanov because maybe people are scared because, I mean, I got burned on it last week. But I'm going to go right back to the well. Playing Alexandr Romanov in all of my DraftKings lineups. Why? Because maybe this week people are a little bit scared off of him, and as we've went through this entire card, it's pretty difficult liking certain favorites. Romanov, it's no, there's nothing special about this pick, but Romanov should smash 100%. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Do you have anything to add?
No, the tough spot with DK is that you're going to get 1 takedown, 20 ground strikes, and a first-round knockout, right? Yeah. So you'll get scored very handsomely on it, but of course he's going to be the biggest chalk guy on the card, whereas Marlon Vera's got 5 rounds to work with, dude. He's going to get takedowns. He's going to get strikes. He's going to have pace. Yeah, good times to be had. I don't think you can really say much.
On DraftKings, though, it's like Romanov would just have to outscore like Andrei Fili and some of the other guys who are big. There's not many big favorites on the card. You'd have to outscore Tatsuru. I'm never going to be able to say that when we actually get to the fight. Tyra. He's going to have to outscore the other guys who are up there in price. So it's more about the build than anything. I would hope that maybe people are just scared off of him this week because of what happened last week, where we don't find out that until lineups have already locked that Chase Sherman got into like a motorcycle accident or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that they just moved it from one card to the next, like it couldn't have been anything overly serious, I wouldn't think. But yeah, we expected him to smash last week and nothing changes. Should be able to get the takedown. You saw how bad Sherman was against Collier, of course. Nobody that fights Sherman has the game plan of taking him down, and the one guy that did absolutely exploited him. So I would think Romanov does the same thing. Only 2 things that could possibly go wrong, Paul, because what could possibly go wrong? You mentioned it, Dean Barry situation from last week. Like, you just get yourself disqualified. So imagine he gets the takedown, and he's smashing on Chase Sherman. And Chase Sherman bellies down, and he turtles, and you smack him in the back of the head a few times, you're done. You get in the heat of the moment, you drop an elbow on him, you're done. The way this guy throws King Kong 2-handed fists, you don't think one of them fists is going to glance the back of the head? There's a lot of bad spots that could go there. Of course, you could always blow out your knee. You could always break your leg on a leg kick. You could always do something stupid like that. What is number 2 thing that could go potentially wrong is that he did look exceptionally good on the scales last week, did he not? Moldovan supplements designed specifically to work and peak the body at a certain time. So you take them last week because you think you're fighting last week. Now you can't double down on them. I mean, your iron's way too high. Your liver count's low. White blood cell right through the roof. I mean, you had taken them so that you could peak performance last week. It's possible that his body's now in the decline cycle. So, all jokes aside, Moldovan supplements, watch out for them. And I think Alexandr Romanov is going to go out there and smash. So 2,200, what can you do with it? Even on the top ticket, it's not doing you anything. You're going to chase him inside the distance. The tricky part is knockout or submission. Like, he could do it both. In the UFC, he tends to be more of a submission guy. I think logic would dictate probably grab up a submission. But I think he'll just go King Kong on him, smash him with 2 hands till he gets a referee stoppage. So I got personally Romanov TKO, but again, the smartest play is just Romanov inside the distance, which I believe is like minus 700 or something stupid.
Yeah, I saw minus 550 out there.
Yeah,
I had it at
Romanov round 1 as well. You know, if that tickles.
I had it at minus 450 on my parlay, but because that book hasn't up to, like, they haven't re-added it this week, so like now it's really weird. I may have to just straight up cash out of it. I'm not entirely sure because they may not. I don't know, that prop may not carry through because like right now they're offering me what the payout was for Andrade was parlayed with it, but like they're not. It hasn't re-registered, so I'm gonna have to check that out. I may just have to cash it out, and then I won't be invested in it, unfortunately. But yeah, Pat had something to say. He had his hand up. He has questions.
Yeah, I got a DraftKings question here as it pertains to Romanov. Like, I think, thinking about it just from a DraftKings perspective, I think you have to lock him in because he's minus 2,200 and only $9,600. And Fili is what, a minus 260 and he's $9,300. And with the way that you guys like dogs on this card,
you can fit it.
Even if you take him, you still have $8,000 left.
Yeah.
Like, you can still leave money on the table with him. Like, you can get unique enough. Like, is he? Like,
he's a bigger.
What are the chances that he outscores Fili? Like, a percentage chance? Like,
pretty good.
Like 80-20?
Yeah, I would think. I would think
say
really
so.
good.
So I think that's the way that you got to go. I'm making a lineup as we go along right now. So
no, lock in Romanov. The only issue is that maybe Chase Sherman goes running again. I don't actually know exactly what happened. They said out of an abundance of caution, whatever that means. I think he got into like a slight like motorcycle accident. Either way, I mean, this guy got caught, was not supposed to be back in the UFC, and then all of a sudden comes by. He's 3-8 in his time in the UFC. His grappling is horrible. The only way he really wins is like a disqualification, or maybe the leg kicks causes like an injury or something. Like, if he gets taken down, he's getting smashed.
Yeah, also, you can't use the line out of an abundance of caution when you're booking a guy who is this big of an underdog.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting the poor some bitch into, and it's not going to go pretty. I would say, I believe, and we've been around a long time, Alexandr Romanov is the biggest favorite going into a fight in UFC history.
It is,
Have you ever seen a -2? I've never seen that.
I think this is the biggest UFC favorite. I saw someone post that actually earlier.
Somebody tweet that out? Yeah, I mean, it's never happened. The only one I can think of is like Maria Agapova over Shayna Dobson went off at like 1850.
Yeah.
Kayla Harrison, that's the PFL stuff. Like, she routinely goes off bigger than that. But in terms of the UFC, this is an astronomical favorite. Now, is the biggest guy of all times going to lose? Shit, it's a heavyweight. Like, talk about a division to make something happen. But yeah, I mean, styles make fights. And this is not a favorable matchup for Sherman. Even if Sherman had that classic puncher's chance and could clip Romanov, because we don't know how great Romanov's chin is, Sherman's not even a power puncher. He's a volume guy. And you and I have discussed at length how bad Sherman's been since his no contest because his back knee, and it wasn't a no contest. They gave him the win over Ike. I don't know why it was a win, but he tested positive, and then since then he's been like off-cycled and just doesn't look very well. He accepted this fight because the UFC offered him double his regular show money. Doesn't that not tell you everything you need to know? I think it tells me everything I need to know. So, Alexandr Romanov, first round finish.
Gabe Green takes on Yohan Lainesse, -135 Green, +115 Lainesse. I know on Contender Series, I believe you picked Burlinson. Lainesse was a big underdog, and he came through. I mean, he looks a little bit like He doesn't look the most technical on the feet by any stretch of the imagination. I went back and watched a couple of his fights, but like I don't mind this guy all that much. I see a lot of people lining up to bet Gabe Green this week, and I think technically his striking is better, but and he should be able to land some leg kicks pretty effectively. Obviously, Daniel Rodriguez, he had a pretty close fight with him. I don't mind. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you have to say because I was kind of looking at this as another dogger pass situation. What's your take here?
So do I, man. I think it's another live underdog situation. Of course, Canadians keeping that momentum going, and I think they could be another spot here for 2-0. With Yohan Lainesse, I'm the first one to admit that I have underestimated this guy, not only in the Burlinson fight, but for a large majority of his career. He's got a tremendous amount of like raw power, but he's not the most technical guy going. Like, he comes at you, he chucks bombs. You watch his TKO fights, they're very sloppy to say the least, but physically very strong and definitely has some raw power in there. He's just, I don't know, maybe not going to tie it together. So pandemic happens. This guy's undefeated in Quebec. Quebec's not having fights. He needs to figure out how to continue his career. So he takes probably not a couple great fights for CFFC over in New Jersey, which is one of the best regional companies in the absolute world. Very tough, stiff competition. And he excels, man. First round knockout over Connor Dixon, a flying knee in 14 seconds over Lenny Rufali. That one ended up going viral. This Troy Green fight, Troy Green was 4-0, also undefeated as an amateur. Just like solid guy. He goes out there, he beats him. Like, at what point am I going to become a believer? And then Evan Cutts. Evan Cutts is my boy, right? Used to be on Bellator Fight Master back in the day. Has a win over Regan Penn from the Hawaiian Regionals, BJ's brother. The guy's been around. Texas Regionals show vet, BJJ black belt, tough as nails. It's for the CFFC championship. No way Lainesse is going to win this fight, right? He's got bad cardio, by the way, with Lainesse. Everything he does is just so exhausting that he's not built for multiple rounds, and CFFC does 4 rounds, not 5 rounds, unless it's 2-2, then they'll do an optional 5th. But he's just going to gas out. First round, close, competitive, but he's starting to tire. Second round, he's starting to tire. And the dude just turns up the jets out of nowhere and knocks Evan Cutts out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally just barrages him and puts him away.
I watched that
thinking,
one.
Damn, maybe he was tiring. It looked like he was tiring.
He said that a lot.
He just keeps coming forward.
He was coming off of the Troy Green fight, and he said like the broadcasters were saying they're like he said to them, he's just like, a lot of people think that I can't fight. He's like, I've changed up my nutrition, yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. You always hear this, the old song and dance. But I mean, yeah, that Cutts fight's like he had plenty in the tank in round 2. He had a cut on the side of his face, and it wasn't looking great for him. And then the Burlinson fight, I think he really showed that. His first amateur fight, he got submitted back in 2016. Obviously, he got a little bit of a later start into MMA, but he showed that he was not scared whatsoever to go and get himself out of a predicament. Like, he took down Burlinson, had to quickly get out of a guillotine attempt, and I think he's worked on a lot of different things. So I'm leaning toward, I think he's probably going to get added to the card. It's going to be an all-dog card for me this week. God have mercy on my soul.
Dude, I hear it 100%. And so that's what I'm getting at. Is after you beat Cutts, it's like, oh, dude. And then he fights Burlinson. And that was the last time I'd have said, I'm just going to fade this guy. Burlinson, of course, was a minus 275 favorite. I think I paid minus 325 for the record. Such a dumb idea. Burlinson's 17-1 as an amateur, right? One of the best amateurs to come out of Britain. Guy's legit. Undefeated as a professional. Can grapple, can strike. Big for the weight class. He's undefeated for Bellator. He was like going to fight for a Cage Warriors title and instead jumps on the Contender Series and gets absolutely folded in just folded up by Lainesse in a minute 37. As you mentioned, the takedown, he's very strong. He's also spent a lot of time working with Patrick Cote at Brazilian Top Team Canada and Fabio Holanda. His grappling is good. It's good by virtue that he's very strong. So even like a Bartosz Fabinski type, they can just take you down and hold you down because they're so strong. Lainesse's grappling underrated, and I actually think it's an advantage in this spot. If he can use the wrestling in spots, he can use the striking in spots. But beyond all that, with Gabe Green, is that Green's got to fight an aggressive, in-your-face game plan, put up volume, right? Because that's what we've seen from him so far. He's a volume guy. But he's not defensively sound enough to take these shots. Like, dude, he got hit 175 times significantly against Daniel Rodriguez. The same thing in the Philip Rowe fight. Rowe's so long that if you can just break that distance,
he showed
he's
really
got nothing on the inside.
Sorry,
but he got hit a lot, man. He got hit clean. And then lastly, you look at his 2 losses before he signed with the UFC. They're both knockout. They're both in the first round, including one to Jalen Turner, no shame in that, in 36 seconds. Like, I don't think he's so cast iron that he's going to make a career of just walking through guys' shots. You can take some shots from Daniel Rodriguez. You can take some shots from Philip Rowe. I don't think you want to get hit from Yohan Lainesse. And that's aside from the fact that Yohan could just take him down and use his better grappling. So multiple paths to victory, and he's the underdog. And believe me, this guy really wants it. Like, he's been training to fight in the UFC for a long time. When he got in the Contender Series, he's a huge underdog. And all of his social media posts, he's just like, oh, I finally get to showcase myself to the world. I'm making the UFC guys like so much self-belief that, yeah, I'm going to smoke this guy. Nobody else believes I will. And then he walks in there and smokes this guy. And this is a continuation. So he's just another live underdog in a card that's chock full of them.
The only last thing I wanted to add to it is at the end of Rowe versus Green, he has, like, Rowe can't really stand anymore. His leg has been so damaged, and he keeps following him to the ground, making it. He ends up winning the decision, don't get me wrong, but, like, the only way he could lose that fight at that point is if he gets reversed or something like that. And just continually, like, if he just forced Rowe to stand up and just kept beating at that leg, he probably could have got him out of there. So that was kind of another thing. I'm like, this guy's making poor decisions in fight as well. So definitely not laying the chalk on him. Gonna add Lainesse to my card. This could be an interesting one this week there, Cody. All right, we got Natan Levy taking on Mike Breeden. Minus 195 Levy, plus 165 Breeden. Who you got here?
Like, I think I will side with the favorite in this one, but it's not like I love it. And I think a lot of it's just recency bias on the part of Mike Breeden. Like, he looked so bad against Alexandr Hernandez that you're going to be quick to maybe write this guy off. But yeah, I don't know. To me, this one comes down to the stylistical clash, right? What we do know from Mike Breeden is that, fought fairly low-level guys, but look at the Contender Series fight with Anthony Romero. He gets outstruck by a fair enough margin, like 80-60, but the leg kicks, man. I mean, Anthony Romero just kicks the lead leg at will, chews it up, immobilizes him. It's going to be something that's going to be a bit of an issue going forward, I think. And then he takes the fight with Alexandr Hernandez on short notice. His takedown defense looked okay in the fight, but Hernandez just swarmed him, put a combination together, and he didn't know what to do. Just put his hands up, tried to defend the best he could, and gets knocked out like minute 20 into the round. Didn't look like he belonged, so to speak. Natan Levy, meanwhile, there's not a whole lot you can love out of him too. Like, he's very young. He comes from a karate background. He loves to kick. I think he's going to try to stay to the outside, utilize as much of the apex that he can to just stay to the outside and kick. But if for whatever reason Mike Breeden's able to cut him off, like, he's not all that good inside the pocket or in short distance. Like his fight with Rafa Garcia bombed on him inside the pocket. Just bombed on. All of his right hands were landing. Nate Levy took everything. He was getting beat up standing. As far as the takedowns, he gave up a whole lot of takedowns. But the dude's grappling actually looked vastly improved to me. Like, of course, on the Contender Series, he picked up a second-round arm triangle choke or third-round arm triangle choke, I believe it was. But it looks like that's probably primarily what he's working on is his wrestling and his grappling. And where it wasn't good enough to beat Rafa Garcia, I could give him a pass there. Like, Rafa Garcia's proven to be serviceable at least, whereas I don't know what Breeden brings to the table. Breeden's offensive wrestling, it's not there. It doesn't exist. So I don't think he's going to take down Nate Levy. I think he's just going to follow him forward, try to put hands on him. And if Levy's game plan stick to the outside and use his kicks, that'll work. At some point, though, Nate Levy's going to try to take Breeden down. And if Breeden's takedown defense is as good as people say it is, maybe he can make it a closer fight. If he gets taken down, it should be Levy's. Levy's trains full-time out of Syndicate MMA. He's a training partner to some of the best guys in the sport, and you do see that he's making improvements. I thought he fought very valiantly last time against Rafa Garcia, and this should be a better version of him. Even though he is 30, I don't know how many major improvements he'll make. I think he'll be good enough to beat Mike Breeden. So minus 190, not a price tag I love for a guy that's 0-1 in the UFC, and it's definitely green in a lot of areas of the game. But again, as many favorites as I am taking, I'm not going to take the Breeden shot.
Yeah. I'm with you as well. I mean, you just look at each one of these guys' Tapology pictures, and Natan Levy looks like a viable favorite. The guy's super, super jacked, whereas Breeden just looks like, my bartender from 2 nights ago. Moving on down, we got Gina Mazzani taking on Shayna Young. -165 Gina Mazzani, +145 Shayna Young. They put me in a predicament here, Cody. I mean, last time Gina Mazzani was out here, we were betting catch a beating by knockout. Good times. It was like +600 on Cab by knockout. I kind of figured that if Gina wasn't able to just take her down controller at will over the course of 15 minutes, the Cab would put her in a whole world of hurt, and it paid off. That was basically a year ago. It was May of last year, May 15th of last year. They put her up against who I think is probably the worst fighter in the division, in Shayna Young, who is 0-2 in the UFC. Obviously, she's coming down to 125. I'll check out the weigh-ins here first, but I don't want to get much, like, I guess, because I'm never going to bet Gina Mazzani as a favorite, a -165 favorite. I guess it's a dogger pass situation, but I'm leaning towards pass because I have no interest in putting money on Shayna Young. I'm sorry. I've only given now 4 underdogs this week. I will not be taking a 5th unless Shayna Young looks amazing at 125. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Young for the purposes of this show. But there's no way I get there from a betting perspective.
Yeah, in terms of an underdog, like it does make sense because Gina Mazzani could never be trusted as the favorite. How could she? That last fight with Priscilla Cachoeira, there was no resistance the first round. She was just taking her down at will and setting up shop and completely gassed out. And at the very first time she got punched clean in the face, just towered it away and wouldn't engage with her. Priscilla Cachoeira obviously put a beating on her. So that's not the kind of fighter that I would like to back. I think Gina Mazzani is a little bit older. She's 33 years old. Like, I don't know. Would you want to back her as the favorite? Probably not. But again, I'm not going to officially take the underdog pick on Shayna Young. This is a card, despite being in Las Vegas, is largely dominated by Glory MMA and Fitness. You got Gina Mazzani's on the card. You got Mike Breeden's on the card. You got Grant Dawson's on the card. There's a lot of these Glory MMA Fitness fighters. So I think she's going to come in good shape. Tim Elliott obviously is in excellent form right now. Picked up a close but very significant victory his last time out against Tagir Ulanbekov. He's on fire. The gym's known for putting in the work. And I think that there's a lot that you could go back for Gina Mazzani and like from the fight with Priscilla Cachoeira, but some significant improvements that need to be made. Also, she got dealt a bum hand because she got a takedown in the second and the referee stood it up way too early. And then she gets killed once it gets standing again. I think in this fight against Shayna Young, the takedowns are going to be there again because Shayna Young seemingly gets taken down by pretty much everybody. Once she is on the ground, doesn't really offer up much. So if the takedowns are there for Mazzani does a slightly better job of pacing herself, should be okay. And I don't know anybody who can put a legitimate claim that they make money on Priscilla Cachoeira other than you. And why is the only reason you ever take these flyers on Cachoeira? Because she's got an ability to just come at you and just let hands go. She can maybe hit you, maybe not hit you. But she's going to fight.
She can fight for 15 minutes. She is going to catch a beating. And
she's willing to do it.
And she throws. I mean, she's willing to gouge people's eyes out to not be defeated as well. Like,
how much more
she is fighting
I fight for your dollar could you get? How much more I fight for your dollar could you get than I will gouge this person's eyes out to get out of this submission attempt?
Exactly.
It's very impressive work from Cachoeira. All I'm saying is that Shayna Young doesn't bring that to the table. Like, it's not when she gets up, she's just going to bulldog forward and put some great pressure or fight some really heavy, aggressive game plan. I don't think that's in her arsenal. More often than not, she gets taken down. Now, anyways, my go-to inside source for some of these regional fighters from Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, is informed that Shayna Young trains at a gym in Tennessee. Apparently, most of the gym separated and left due to an issue with the strength and conditioning coach. She has remained at the gym with said strength and conditioning coach, who then felt bad because she's got nobody to train with. So he paid to send her to Las Vegas, where she's been for 3 weeks training for the fight. And I just don't think 3 weeks in Vegas is enough to really change anything about you. I'm sure she's in shape. She might look a little bit better than she normally does. But I think personal drama in her life, making a new weight cut, strength and conditioning coach is in your side, but why did everybody else bail from him? Like, a lot of that just seems like red flaggy to me. And I've got so many other underdogs that I actually do like. I'm just not going to force one here. Yeah. So the play is Gina Mazzani. It's just how much could you really love it at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, she just Yeah, she just faltered as a sizable. I think she's a bigger favorite than this against Ketchup Eating. And, yeah. I mean, I imagine after that fight, she went back, put in a whole bunch of time working on cardio for the last year. So I expect the best Gina Mazzani that we've ever seen to show up on Saturday.
But what is the best version of Gina Mazzani look like?
There is the issue there, buddy. All right, and finally we got Tatsuru. How do I say this? Tatsuro.
Pretty easy.
My mouth doesn't
say it phonetically. Just say it phonetically.
Tatsuro Taira. He takes on Carlos Candelario. Minus 240 for Taira. Plus 195 for Candelario. Watching some tape on Tatsuro Taira, who is 22 years old. Very, very young. I mean, the kid's grappling is super, super stellar, to be perfectly honest. I don't really love what I see from his wrestling, but his ability to grab like body triangle is pretty good. He's obviously the number one ranked flyweight prospect coming out of Japan. All good things for him. Are they potentially putting him in this situation as a maybe we can build a new star? Am I running into another Mokaev situation? Perhaps. I ended up betting Candelario though. Hopefully he can keep it on the feet. My biggest worry is that Taira grabs body triangle here, just rides his back, maybe even finds a submission. But going back and watching Candelario versus Altamirano, I thought Candelario should have won that decision. It was just at the end of round 2. It's the most freshest thing in their minds. Altamirano was able to get like a hip toss and land a couple strikes, it was relatively close, but I thought he should have won that round. Thought he should have won the fight in general. I just think if this fight stays on the feet, I haven't seen enough from Taira on the feet. I think he's got him covered there. Candelario did slow down quite a bit in round 3 against Altamirano. The strikes were like 50 to 20-ish. I don't have it right in front of me, but it was in that range. I think that a lot of that had to do with like round 1. He was coming out guns a-blazing. You're on Contender Series. You're looking for that finish. Why? You get that finish. Dana White hands you a contract. You become a UFC fighter. I know that this guy took off 4 years in between. I just thought I grabbed a plus 225 a little bit. I grabbed it yesterday, actually. Grabbed the plus 225. And I just think, especially if Taira doesn't get body triangle, I am aware that this is definitely a severe possibility. I think that if this fight stays on the feet, this is going to look more like a pick'em, to be perfectly honest. So I went with the dog shot on Carlos Candelario. What do you think about this matchup?
Man, I'm super split on this one. And you got Tatsuro Taira as like the second or third biggest favorite on the card. So there's a lot of faith in him. I just don't really fully understand it. I think Candelario technically is very sound. He's got good striking. He's got decent enough output. His wrestling's pretty okay. His grappling's pretty okay. There's a lot that you can like about the guy. Taking on a 22-year-old Japanese fighter that, beyond the fact that he seems to have some sick grappling, here's the red flag on the guy, right? He's 9-0 as an amateur. He is 10-0 as a pro. This is his pro record. First round triangle, first round front choke, first round ground and pound, first round ground and pound, second round ground and pound, 19 seconds in, 2 decisions, and then 3 more triangle, rear naked choke, all in the first round. No doubt he's talented and he can go put a pace on a guy early, but it's against very limited green opposition over in Japan. Like, you can get away with certain things. Candelario's tough. He's American. He's fought in the better level of competition, and he's fought in the Contender Series twice. He's been in there against, I think, the higher level. At 30 years old, he's going to have the man strength advantage, and I think that he could do enough to just outstrike him standing.
Record is against a bunch of nobodies. I mean, Altamirano was the most talented guy he faced, and it was a close fight. I mean, in fairness to Taira, like, he is fighting some Japanese fighters with 38 and 18 record in Maeda. But yes, a lot of his fights that I saw is like he's taking on like old, like Maeda is 40 years old now. He's fighting a lot of guys who, they're fighting at 135. So it's going to be interesting seeing Tyra come down to 125 for this matchup. And like a lot of these situations, I'm like, these are like straw weights. These are male straw weights that he's taking on. Like he's got massive size advantage over most of his opponents in Japan. Whereas Candelario is going to be as tall as him. They're pretty much around the same size, like 5'7" and 5'8". Yeah, this will be a definite stiff test. This will be the most, he's met his match, I think. And that's why I took the dog shot.
Yeah, well, I think it makes sense. And again, with Carlos Candelario, it kind of didn't ruin him, I guess, but against he fought on the Contender Series against Ronaldo Candido. I know they got very similar sounding names. And he's taking on a guy that's a very high level BJJ black belt, excellent grappling. He got taken down 8 times. He got out of a recorded 5 submission attempts. But man, his grappling looks super solid. So if this kid's only got grappling to bring to the table, I don't think it's going to be as easy as just lock up an easy money, quick submission. The thing is that he fought super valiantly in that fight, thought he was going to get a UFC contract because he won. This is his, career objective. And Dana passes over for a contract. And he was like, you know what? There's no money in MMA, which he's right about, especially at the regional level. So if I'm not fighting in the UFC, I'm done. So he retired for 4 years, right? Retires for 4 years, comes back out of retirement, fights this Miguel Restrepo, whom he'd already beaten earlier in his career, wins a decision. And then when the Contender Series called him, it's what? It's 25 days later. 25 days later after coming from a 4-year-long layoff and beating a guy for 3 rounds. You take the fight with Victor Altamirano. And
so
I thought he won 2. I thought he won the first 2 rounds.
He gasses in round 3. But that can make sense.
That can give him a pass there.
Because he got the Restrepo fight. It's like, well, maybe his gas tank is a lot better. Because like he probably won that fight, didn't necessarily know he was going to get the Contender Series call. He's eating cheeseburgers, having a time. It was his first fight in 4 years coming off of retirement. It all kind of adds up. So if this guy has 3-round cardio, I think it's even more difficult for Tyra.
Yeah, fact. And when he lost the Altamirano fight, they gave Altamirano a contract at the end of the night, but they didn't give one to Carlos Candelario. But I think Dana gave him a pat on the back and was like, stay ready. Matchmakers gave him a pat on the back, stay ready. And he has stayed ready. And so when you think about this moment is huge for him, I think he's going to be in shape. I think he's going to go out there. I think he's going to give it his all. And even if his cardio, if it's improved, good. Even if it hasn't improved marginally, he can still win the first 2 rounds. I know they disagreed in the Altamirano fight, but I thought he won that second. You thought he won that second. One of the 3 judges thought he won that second. That's all we need here. We just need a close fight because we got one guy who's a sizable enough underdog that if you can keep this thing close and keep it competitive, edge out 2 of the 3 rounds, maybe get tired in the 3rd, but don't get finished. By the way, he's never been finished in his career, not as a pro or as an amateur. Nope. And had they given him the Victor Altamirano decision, which you agree with and I agree with, and people do agree with, then the kid be coming in here undefeated as well. He'd have an undefeated amateur record and undefeated pro record, just like this Japanese kid.
It's like you're reading my notes.
Only difference is he's fought in Las Vegas twice in front of Dana White. He's fought in better level of competition. He's gone deeper into rounds. Is this not all stuff you would like from an underdog? It's just, I'm like, man, am I taking too many underdogs? Like, am I fooling myself? But like, I don't know. Maybe he's the PRP pick. But dude, I would accuse you of stealing my notes, but my notes are in my head. So unless you're in my head, which I hope for your sake you're not. Yeah, dude, we agree with a lot of underdogs on this card, and I think it could be one where the dogs will be howling on Saturday night.
Pat.
2 things. 1, with the way that the UFC schedule has been watered down, and they're just like, this event sounds horrible, unless you really like fighting. I do not, but I like to win money. That can you have enough underdogs? Like, isn't the watering down of the product ripe for this sort of thing, where like 7 dogs win on one card?
Yes. I mean, lower level of competition, you have less reason to trust when big numbers get thrown out there. So that's kind of my mentality about it as well. But I just think a lot of these matchups are relatively close. And if we're going to be flipping a coin and you're going to be giving me plus 160s, plus 145s, even plus 115 on like a guy like Lainesse, I'm going to take them. So that's why I'm ending up on a whole bunch of dogs this week. I got Candelario already locked in, plus 225. I'm going to be adding Gordon, Tristan Connelly, and Yohan Lainesse. Go Team Canada. Don't let me down. Because, yeah, we've been fading Canada. It doesn't really – maybe there's a resurgence in Canadian MMA. But, yeah, it's dog week for me, baby. So let's get after it. We're just about out of time here, Code. You know the drill. Hit him with the PRP.
Hit him with the PRP. Hopefully we got a better effort this time around. But anyways, lots of underdogs. Marlon Vera, dog number 1. Jake Collier, dog number 2. We're going to go with Andrei Fili. We're going to go with Jared Gordon, dog number 3. We're going to go with Tristan Connelly, dog number 4. We're going to go with Jotko. We're going to go with Francisco Figueiredo, dog number 5. We got Romanov. We got Yohan Lainesse as dog number 6. We got Natan Levy, Gina Mazzani, and Carlos Candelario, 7 underdogs. I know it sounds crazy, but Pat mentioned it. It's these cards used to be, fight nights used to be loaded with good guys that you knew. Jim Miller can't even crack a co-main event on a fight night card, right? But over time, it's like so many guys from the Contender Series, so many guys that have been off for a year or two, but still have a valid contract with the organization that you owe fights to. There's just so much that they'll throw stuff together. And so the MMA burnout effect is that last week there's 2 Bellator cards, and there's a UFC, and there is
PFL,
a KSW show, and there's a PFL, right? And then you roll it. Nowhere I got burned worse is I got burned worst on that Bellator, the second Bellator, with some of these favorites, because there's not too much thought process that can go in. Your time is just kind of spread thin between so many organizations. Mm-hmm. This card's the same way. It's flying under the radar because it doesn't have the name value. And there's also a better looking PFL show on the Thursday night.
It's true.
So part of me thinks that, yeah, there's some value to be made. And with these guys that are mid-level, again, if you're not a fan favorite, people don't really want to do the study. People don't really want to dig into it. So a line gets set. People generally go with the flow of that. But where have we been getting burned? If we've been getting burned over the last month, it's just like these pop-up underdogs. Pop-up underdogs, they're going to come through, right? They're close, they're competitive, and they're willing to fight for it. We got a bunch of them that are going to do that. Marlon Vera is a junkyard dog. Plus money on him, sign me up. Jared Gordon is a junkyard dog. Tristan Connelly, a little less so than those guys maybe, and he's fighting a veteran junkyard dog, but he's going to fight for it, right? Beyond that, Yohan Lainesse, maybe Candelario. I hope he goes for it because he knows it could be his last opportunity. Is that you're getting guys that are going to go out there and give you their best effort, have the skill sets to win this fight, and are plus money. It looks good. On the DraftKings side of things, as Pat said, there's so much of these underdogs that are live, and not only that, a lot of these underdogs are live for a big finish, right? So if you can get a couple dogs come through, save value, take your Romanovs, get your wins. Even the guys that I like Jotko, worst DraftKings play of all times. Don't take him. Mm-hmm. So you're going to fade some of those top guys, hit some of the dog. Yeah, he just doesn't score shit.
Well, he's just going to actively probably try to keep it on the feet and pick them apart with like 60 significant strikes. Like that's probably... I know you said that he could probably take him down and just hang out in his guard, but how much time is he gonna spend 3 minutes of each round from top position? Because you kind of, if it's not too much volume, you kind of need someone who's just like top control for like 5 minutes or more in a fight. And I don't know if that's how the fight would play out there.
Yeah. Question. Yeah. Hold on. Who are the dogs that are going to knock people out early or finish early? You just mentioned that a couple of these dogs could be quick finishers. Who are they?
Lainesse could just absolutely. I mean, Gabe Green has been very, very durable, but Lainesse is going to be throwing heaters. Like that's his thing. He is a finisher. If he wins, very possible he finds a finish. Jared Gordon's less of a finisher, but more of a sets a high pace. Historically, can put up.
Exactly.
Tons of points.
Look at his DraftKings numbers historically.
Yeah, I mean, historically puts up big points because he just keeps coming at you, lands a lot of takedowns, top control, and throws a lot of volume. So he's a good dog situation. Vera's in the main event. So that's a five rounds. He's got a great chin, and the guy he's fighting probably throws a little bit more, but he could definitely knock out Rob Font. That's very, very much in play. So, yeah, there is no shortage of underdogs that you can fill your lineups with this week on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of the Jared Gordon narrative, Grant Dawson's taking the fun of short notice for Rafael Alves. Mm-hmm. So tire this guy out, put a pace on him. Everything Paul said is true. And also, I think with Tristan Connelly, maybe that one doesn't scream quick finish, but not a whole lot of people are probably going to roster him. And if Elkins is damaged, that's the key. It's not whether Elkins could win this fight if he's at full capacity. It's that he's taken a beating. He's been in the ringer. He could be susceptible to get caught. Or he could be in a crazy war like the Nate Landwehr fight. The opponent's going to put up big numbers against Elkins because that's the way Elkins fights, right? So I think there's just tons of guys live on the DraftKings side of things, tons of guys that are live if you just want to make straight underdog bets. So, because I'm more of a parlay guy myself, the biggest question is who's going to Amber Heard in the apple pie? But I'm just hoping to avoid it altogether and then hopefully come out on the positive. But the favorites, there's a much shorter list of the favorites that you do. Like, who do you put at the top ticket? You know, do you put Marlon Vera, easy hedge out on Rob Font? Maybe, but who's he get matched up with? Who are the favorites that you actually like? Who's a top ticket guy that you could put with him? I'm looking at it.
I think Fili rolls here, but
okay, and Fili is a minus 260, 270 favorite.
I mean, it's a big price to pay on Andrei Fili, but I think he should have him covered pretty much everywhere here.
I like Jotko, but how many times is Meerschaert gonna, slip me one? But of course, if I bet him, then he'll Meerschaert in the apple pie.
Meerschaert all over your parlays for sure. Meerschaert in your apple pie was much better line. We'll use that one.
Yeah. But anyways, we're talking about a lot of shit, and I'm trying to think positive here. So hopefully we can squeak out of this one on the Victoria side of things. Because again, so many underdogs, if they do come through, if we do get the bounces that we need, if we do get the 2 out of 3 judges side it our way, yeah, I mean, the money's there to be made. So this could be a crazy bounce back week, or it could just be another continuous trend of greasy cards that you shouldn't bet on. But we're such big fight fans, and this is what we do on a week-to-week basis. That, of course
I can't help myself. I mean, last
week,
what
else are you gonna do?
Last week would have been a tread water from my UFC betting card. I mean, if the Romanov fight went off, it would have been fine. I'm happy, and then the Bellator live, that saved my bacon, made me actually have a profitable week for the first time in a little bit. So only onwards and upwards from here, Cody. But that is it for us. Oh, Pat has another question. Right as I was about to finish off there. What's up?
Sorry about that. No, I wanted to play a PRP based on your guys' picks, but I know you guys won't do it because too cowardly. So here's the move. You got Fili, Gordon, Connelly, Figueiredo, Lainesse, and it's-a-me, Candelario. 242-1 in.
How can that lose?
I don't understand.
I hope it wins, because then I'm sweeping my card.
Is that the best bet of the last 5 years, Paul?
Probably. I would say it's probably the best bet of the last 5 years.
Yeah, of course. You know what? I mean, we hit a UFC PRP every year, right? If this was to be it, just saying, if it was to be your week that you pull your winning lotto numbers, we got Romanov, you have Candelario, Gina Mazzani, Natan Levy, Yohan, Francisco, Jotko, Connelly, Jared Gordon, Andrei Fili, Jake Collier, Marlon Vera on a $1 bet. Pays $1,900. so you know what I mean? On a $1 bet. Of course, I'm going to have $5, $10, maybe $20 on it. And you'll never hear from me ever again if the PRP hits, correct?
Bet
it's going to be great times.
Win 1,900 farms, and then you basically just own a country, basically, at that point.
And then I just run my own country. Yeah, of course. Anything could go wrong. I'm just saying it's $1.
Lots can definitely go wrong.
I had a conversation with someone the other day. They're like, man, it must suck when you get, you're getting picks wrong. People are let down. I get it. And that never feels good. But I always think to myself this, and I try to express this. If we lose on an event, right, you had a unit, 2 units, 3 units, you lose it on the event. And you lose it on the next event. You lose it on the third event. On the fourth event, you hit one of these 8-1s. You hit one of these 10-1s. Well, on the outside looking in, you're 1-3 on the month. Not a very good result, now, is it? But when we hit big. That's what we go for. Losing is part of the game. I think everybody's accepted that. It's when you hit, you try to hit big. Is this 12-hitter going to go? No. But, dude, if the 6-hitter goes, we're going to be looking pretty good. It's all about hopefully being on the right side of things. So that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah, and that's why it makes it a lot more – I know that sometimes with Bellator it makes it, easier to hit the PRP. But when you're loading up a whole bunch of minus 1,000 favorites, it's like – I mean, I've seen top lines of yours that are like minus 195 for a 4-leg parlay. It's just like you just need one injury, one crazy thing, one Dean Barry type of situation happens, and everything goes up in flames. So Yeah, that's just the nature of the beast. Anyway, I think Pat doesn't have any more questions. Cody doesn't have any more comments. That is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed this show. For producer Pat Mayo and Cody Saftic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.